Hey, this is Doc Solo, the OG from Generation Geek. And as promised, now we're about to share with you part 2 of our previous interview. And we decided we're going to start breaking these up into individual discussions instead of trying to throw everything at you guys at once, especially as a new channel. We kind of need all the content we can get, as well as we want to make sure that we hit each topic that we discuss thoroughly and don't sell any individual topic short. Now, with that being said, keep in mind, all the opinions expressed here are strictly our own. And if someone has something that they'd like to discuss further, we are always open for the conversation. There won't be any character bashing or anything of that matter. We judge everything on its own merits and the merits of the topic itself. Period. Most of these people we don't even know. Okay. And so there won't be any disparaging comments, making people out to be anything less than what they are. We're just going to share our vantage point. This is commentary. That's all it is, from a father and son team that have been doing this for a long time. And so on today, we're talking about Mark Waid and his continuing battle with apparently Mark Millar. Now, here's the funny thing. They're both two of my favorite writers historically. Despite the comments agreeing or not agreeing, whatever the case may be moving forward, it's no reflection on the body of work that Mr. Waid has accomplished, right? I'm talking Kingdom Come, which is one of my all-time favorites. DC animation or Warner Brothers, whoever. That needs to happen in some type of moving movie format, as well as Tower of Babel, which is an all-time great story, and he's won every type of award. But as of late, some of the comments are a little bit caustic and can be considered a little bit inflammatory. And so as vested members of all things geek, and especially the comic book community, this is our commentary on Mark Waid saying, burn it all down. And so, check it out. Cue the clip. So, all right, moving on. Moving on. Unless you got something else, son. Okay, so moving on. Mark Wizzy.
Oh, Mark.
Mark Wizzy. This dude here.
This man wrote Kingdom Come. To this day is the greatest graphic novel comic book I have ever read in my entire life. To this day, we grew up driving to road trip, Six Flags, listening to Kingdom Come. So this man wrote basically the whole Old Testament for comic books when it comes to me. Like, that's what Kingdom Come is for me. Like, it's the Bible. And so
from one fall of grace to another, right? So we're moving from one fall of grace to another. Mark Waid. Mark Waid at one time was an exceptional writer. He has largely been ousted from the community and has now been relegated to the dungeon that is Twitter. Right? I don't play in the Twitter space. Again, I do it to protect people from me. Okay? It ain't because I fear any smoke. I literally do it to protect people from the person I know that I can be. But all of this started when Glenn O'Leary, the proprietor and owner of 30 years of Comics Palace, we showed that in the last video, had the nerve, the audacity, the cojones to say the industry is failing, and I'm paraphrasing, because current writers don't know how to write to the characters. They want to put themselves in the characters. They want to gender bend and race swap and all of the other things. And he can't sell this stuff. And so Mark Millar, who has now elevated himself above the cesspool of the mainstream comic industry, had the nerve to come to this guy's defense, right? And how can we deny, son? Come on, seriously. The mainstream industry is butt.
Yep.
It is straight stank butt. Now, we don't use profanity here, but it stank. It stank. Yeah. They're trying to pad the numbers to make us believe that the comic industry is doing well. So let's set the table again, right? That it's actually an uptick since I think 2020, or you can check out ICV2 for stats. I was going to pull that up. Check it out for yourself. You can Google it. And they show all of these great numbers, again, that benefit the powers that be. But Boots on the Ground says otherwise. The ones actually selling the stuff, right? And so they include manga as part of that. Comics are doing great. They include Dogman by Dav Pilkey. His newest release, the guy created Captain Underpants, which you all know is comic strip-esque, cartoony-esque, but it's children's books. And he's killing it. Granted, he's killing it. I think his sales are like $300,000 a month. Okay, you know what I mean? For Dogman, his follow-up to Captain Underpants series. Yeah. Padding the numbers, moving the goalpost.
Yep.
Okay, and so Glenn O'Leary, Comics Palace, gets on. Mark Millar jumps to his defense, even went so far as to have other reputable, venerable, 30-plus year tenured comic shop owners verify what Mr. O'Leary and many comic shop owners, I know I talk to mine, are saying the same thing. And so Mark Millar goes so far as to call them the cancel pigs. Cancel pigs. All right? And so Mark Waid and I guess Larry Hama, I didn't know Larry Hama was down like this, but hey, okay. Do you, bro? Huh? Everybody wants a cause. Just for clarity, y'all. I may be a professional artist and animator. I have no dog in this fight. I am not in the mainstream. Maybe one day I will tell you why. But I got hooked up on when the mainstream was at 24 when I broke through into the mainstream. When I got my first pass to work on Superman. Okay? And I turned them down. And everybody thought I was nuts. But unlike, when I was 24, how old were you? 2?
Yeah.
2. You were 2. You were 2. I was 24, maybe 25. And so I'm not going to tell the whole story, but I had a mentor that I met at the animation studio when we were working on shows like Batman, the animated series episodes, Pinky and the Brain, Animaniacs. Yeah, I did all that stuff. We'll say that for another time. As an intern. But I met my mentor there, who was an industry veteran at the time. Okay? My man is still kicking. He's still around. Thank God. Got a few medical problems. I'm going to check up on him probably this week. But he took me under his wing. He saw I had talent, I had skill, and I had the work ethic. So he took me under his wing. I used to actually take Jordan there with me when I used to go to our sessions. And he schooled me. He's like, look, I'm not trying to dissuade you if this is what you want to do, but no, this is what the industry looks like. This is what you're looking at, right? Because he worked for all the big boys, all of them. And he was doing animation because he had to pay his bills. And he was a single white man.
Yeah. Okay,
he was doing all the other things because comics is stuck in the Stone Ages, the mainstream industry. They're stuck in the Stone Ages. Okay? So I can say that without fear of repercussion because I'm not part of that. I'm not a part of that. Actually, I'm doing a video, son, on how I use Marvel to get where I am. I use them as opposed to being used by them. Right? And I found the lowest barrier to entry to do so. Okay? Yeah. We'll share that story. How I use Marvel to get where I am. Okay? But he told me what the industry was. And now people are calling it out.
Yeah.
Now people are calling it out. And you have people, again, Waid is on the outskirts. Mm-hmm. Right? You got Waid, he's on the outskirts with the whole thing. But Millar made headlines recently by defending the comic book shop owner Glenn O'Leary, who criticized Marvel and DC's writers in a now viral video. O'Leary said most of these new writers don't have the love of comics that the older writers had, and all they care about is how can I put myself into a book. This is true, you all. This is not speculation. Okay? All of us that have loved this art form for decades, we feel the same way. True or false, son?
True.
Now you actually read comics more than me, because newsflash, folks, a lot of pros don't actually read comics anymore because they don't have the time to do so.
Yep.
What has been your experience thus far, man?
With comics, so
because I don't read stuff unless you say, "Dad, you got to read this."
Yeah.
He feeds me what to read.
Yeah. So like I think I read Surviving Megalopolis. Have you ever read that?
Have I read what?
Surviving Megalopolis.
I have not.
Yeah.
But it sounds like an indie.
What'd you say?
It sounds like an indie.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay,
yeah,
makes sense. Because Marvel and DC been doing straight butt work.
Yeah. It's an older, like 2014. But anyway, so my experience when it comes to the comic book industry, I grew up what I feel was the best time to grow up, because I grew up around, obviously just like the animated series and Static Shock and stuff like that. So for me, I grew up, I had a pretty, as I would say, a pretty balanced, just upbringing in general, but when it comes to comics, I feel like I had a pretty balanced comic upbringing, because at the same time in my adolescence and growing up, I had Static Shock. So I saw black superheroes, black originally created superheroes, and you know how strongly they spoke on just stuff that we deal in the inner city when it came to gun violence. They spoke on everything. So I grew up around that. But also grew up with Justice League and seeing black characters like Green Lantern, again, original characters. I grew up seeing all this stuff. It wasn't forced, and it was just good stories. You have people like Dwayne McDuffie writing shows. Milestone came around when you were like a teenager, so that started coming around that
Milestone
time.
came out when I was 22 years old.
20. Yeah.
Fresh out the military. Your mom was pregnant with you.
Baby. Yeah, or not more.
She was pregnant with you. And I was desperate for an escape.
Yeah.
And books did it for me.
Yeah. So I grew up with that pretty good balance. So for me, I just grew up just wanting good stories. Things weren't forced. Things, they just were what they were. If we wanted a comic book for us, by us, we read Static or Icon or what's the other guy's name?
Hardware,
things like that. Like we had comics for us, and they were originally good characters. But now we have, obviously, we got the Jane Foster Thor, they gender swapped Thor, and then we have Miles Morales was cool because Miles Morales was an original character. He was cool. He wasn't forced. Kamala Khan, I thought she was cool. She was an original character. Yes, they took the mantles of somebody else. This is just me. I know he feels different about the whole Miles Morales thing, but for me, I felt like
feel different about who?
I think you said about Miles Morales.
Yeah. I feel he's derivative, but he's original.
Yeah. But he's original. He's
derivative,
right?
But he's his own thing with his own path. I dig it.
And I always love the history of the character. That's what got me into it. Like I used to watch Justice League or Justice League Unlimited, and I would see someone. I'm like, who are they? Like, where they come from? And I would dive into their deep history through Wikipedia or something like that. And then
or my Marvel and DC Universe encyclopedias. Marvel Universe and DC Who's Who.
I'm like, who is this? I'll look in there. Who is Waid Rider? Who is the Crimson Cow? Who is Shining Knight? And I would go back and look through the history of these people and figure out who they were. And then to be in my 20s, and now you're going back and retconning their entire history because one writer wants to see themselves in that character when that character is already established. So now, all of a sudden, Iceman, who was always cool and was a ladies' man, now he likes guys. And obviously, we have no problem with the LGBTQ plus community, whatever. But the fact that you're going and changing an original character from what they were simply to fit your selfish narrative, you can say, "Oh, we want to see, all representations inside of these books." Then make another character, make a separately different character that can control ice that likes strictly men. That's fine. Like it could be another mutant. It doesn't have to be Iceman. Why does it have to be Iceman and make that character popular. Be creative enough to make them so intriguing and so deep that we just care about the character and not just taking a pre-established character and changing them. I just don't believe that. That's somebody else's work. I don't believe you have to add that. You go back and change it. You can add new things, but you don't have to go back and change the history of who they were. And that's just my personal experience. I don't want to see Batman race. I don't want to see a black Batman. Batman was Bruce Wayne. I don't care to see that. Like, that's not my thing. Batman is who he is. I like Batman for who he is. I like Nightwing for who he is. I like Steel for who he is. That's because that's who they are. So that's just how I personally feel about, that whole situation.
And so, again, that's my boy, because I feel the same way. I don't want to see an Asian Batman that grew up poor because you have a problem with rich white dudes.
Yeah.
I don't want to see Iceman, who was one of my favorite characters, because I love the X-Men. I think my son knows that. I love the X-Men, right? I don't want to see Iceman retconned after decades of girlfriends and pursuing Kitty Pryde.
Yep.
You now have him come out the closet in a forced story. It wasn't even organic. When they changed time periods or whatever, when the X-Men came from the past and he said, be honest with who you are, or something like that. I'm like, what? I was cool when you gave me North Star. And you told me as the first gay superhero in Marvel. I was cool with that. This ain't about the alphabet group and being anti-anything. And ain't nobody phobic about nothing. Just to be that clear. Ain't no irrational fears here. Okay?
Too comfortable.
Huh?
I said we're too comfortable on who we are.
No, so ain't none of that. So before y'all get there, let me assure you, there's none of that here. Okay.
Nope.
The disdain that you see is that the inability of today's modern day writers to come up with remotely innovative characters of their own, to rest on their own laurels, stand on their own hind legs, as the old folks used to say back in the day. Stand on your own hind legs, earn your way. Earn your keep, make your way, and leave a path for somebody to follow. You understand? Instead, they're taking beloved characters. And again, I'm watching cute little cosplay girls on here say the same. White cosplay girls say the same thing. They don't want the gender bend. They don't want this. So you're hearing it from black dudes. You're hearing it from white girls. Okay, you can dismiss it if you're hearing it from a straight heterosexual middle-aged white man, which is the majority of your comic book populace these days. Yeah. So turn them off at your peril, because these are the men. So this is the math that they don't do. This is the math that they don't do.
That's the stuff they're not gonna like. They ain't gonna want to hear this.
They ain't gonna want to hear this. This is the math that they refuse to do. White middle-aged men are the majority of today's current comic populace, right? Okay, yeah. I've had this at the comic book shop. We talk about this, and all the dudes at the comic book shop is white. Ain't no comic shops oftentimes in the black neighborhood. So,
nope.
We talk, and my son knows I'm the same dude everywhere. So I don't care. I ain't trying to offend. If we can have real conversations, let's not have a conversation at all.
Yeah, you got the Malcolm X hat on everywhere you go.
Okay, here we go. And Wakanda forever. All right, if we can have a real conversation. But if you my guy, if I rocks with you, we should rock regardless of where we stand in our opinions. So I'm having these conversations with a store full of white dudes, and they agree with me. I'm like, I'm a black man who has his own studio, his own art school, and I'm very real with my ethnicity. I stand 10 toes down, proud of what my people are accomplished and what we endeavor to do in the future. I'm not anti-white, but I'm definitely pro-black. Know that. Never anti-white. I had two. He almost didn't happen because a woman I was engaged to prior to his mama was Caucasian, right?
And I was almost engaged to one too.
Right. So just none of that. It's none of that. So just to be clear. And so with that being said, I'm willing to have these conversations. So as a straight heterosexual black man, I said I will, believe it or not, and a born again Christian, licensed and ordained minister of the gospel of Jesus Christ. I stand for all of that. My studio, Honor Studios, is a faith-inspired entertainment studio for everyone. Okay,
Yeah.
so my faith is first and forward facing all the time. Even with that, I'm not opposed to reading a gay story. If the character and the story is compelling, if it's not about their sexuality. I don't want to read about heterosexuality in my stories.
No.
I want you to take me on a ride. You understand? I don't want to see Superman smashing Lois. Okay? No. I don't want to see Thor with whoever the woman is this century. I don't really care. You can allude that there's a relationship there, but tell me a story. Take me on a journey. Right. If you could do that, if you do that, regardless of color, regardless of sexual orientation
or gender,
you will win this audience back.
Just a good story.
Give us a good story, but they can't do so. So they go for shock value, which is the low hanging fruit. Yeah, they go for the shock value. We're gonna gender bend, or we're gonna make them gay. Why? Why not create an original? You know why? Because when they try, they don't have the chops of the forefathers in the industry to create an innovative character that's new.
Yeah.
Right? That I'm not a fan of Sam Wilson as Captain America.
Me neither. I do not like that.
I do not like it. When you gave me Jon Stewart, you did something cool. You gave me a black man with his own journey, but you said the ring can be on anybody. Yeah. I rocks with that. Did you get what I'm saying? Now I was not hit. Before then, I was rocking with Hal Jordan.
Yeah.
And then you gave me Johnson. I'm like, okay, I rocks with that. Cool. Gave him his own path. Yeah. Independent of Hal Jordan. You see what I'm saying? But they don't have that. And so here's what Millar said. Because they came at Larry and what the cancel culture, I'm not going to call them pigs. If I say cancel pigs, this is because I don't believe in ad hominem fallacies. I will attack the argument, not the person. Okay? So I'm always going to attack the person. I mean, the argument, not the person. And so he referred to them as cancelers. Not only did he discuss the various problems with the retailers that he had on the show, Millar made the point to call out what he describes as cancel pigs, which has gone viral in and of itself. So many thumbnails with the cancel pig, who hunt creators under the guise of virtue, because many of them are sociopaths who take pleasure in hurting others, and they really want their jobs. See the current situation at the Big Two for how that worked out. Millar came guns blazing. Guns blazing. And so Mr. Waid makes the statement that, and of course, everyone's divided on this issue. Sure. My needle tends to swing more in the favor of Waid and Mr. O'Leary, to be quite honest. I have no allegiance to either. Ain't none of them writing me a check or buying me a sandwich. Okay? I'm talking about the industry. What'd you say, man?
Did you mean Millar?
Millar, yeah, Millar. I'm sorry. My needle goes with Mr. Millar as opposed to Mr. Waid. It goes towards Mr. Millar and Mr. O'Leary, to be clear, right? But he's calling them cancel pigs because of their intent, the position of their hearts, right? There's a group of people that just derive pleasure from tearing other people down. And that's why I don't do Twitter. That's why I don't Twitter. Despite my upbringing, growing up in the hood on the south side of Chicago, and the horrors that I witnessed as a police officer, what a person is willing to do to another person, I'm largely a positive guy. I don't really like to watch the news because all it is bad news, right? My wife used to work for a major news outlet. Right? Yeah. Outlets, plural. She has done so for years, so they shall remain nameless. Sometimes they call her back. But their number one tenet is that if it bleeds, it leads. Lead with trauma and terror. That's what people are drawn to. And so I don't want that in my life after having witnessed it on the front lines. But these people get off on doing nothing but canceling other people and depriving them of an ability to earn, and I would go so far as robbing them of their First Amendment rights. Mind you, while claiming First Amendment rights on their behalf, wanting to deprive others of theirs. What are your thoughts about that, man?
That works. Yeah, it's always swap. I have to. So the way that is always put out there is that I have freedom of speech. You have to believe what I say and think that I'm right. And if you don't, you're wrong, and you're a demon, and you're evil, and you're all this versus this. I believe what I believe, and you can have your own opinion on what you believe. People, their inherent selfish nature, they can't see past themselves. Right. They don't see how they're being exactly what they're calling somebody else to be. That's the crazy thing about it. And those are always the people that usually the first to cast the first stone. They're the first ones to try to cancel you. But I want you to believe what I want to believe. You have to think the way that I live is right, and that I should be able to live my own life, but not for you. No, not for you. You can't think what you want to think or say how you want to feel, or you're wrong. Right. And then they resort to call the names.
It's so disingenuous.
Yeah, it's very disingenuous.
So disingenuous. So disingenuous. And here, so let's again, context is king. Millar don't need comics, but he still does them. He left the big two a long time ago. So when we're talking about the industry, we're specifically talking about Marvel and DC, right? And so I know you're reading this. My computer's moving slow. First Waid targeted Millar passive aggressively, alluding to him without mentioning his name. He posted to Facebook, and like a falling star rocketing across the sky, another former comic superstar. How is Millar's star falling? The man signed anywhere between, rumors have it, $25 to $50 million deal, which is the holy grail for any comic creator, right? To sign one of those deals to Netflix. He just signed a deal with Dark Horse Comics. He has top-selling comics still in independents, right? With Image, with the Magic Order, with The Big Game, with Nemesis, which was phenomenal, which was a spin on the Batman mythos. Everything this dude puts out is gold. Yep. What are you talking about? Falling star. Dude. Kettle, meat pot. Are you kidding me? Okay. Whose heat is fading chooses to cry for attention by blaming the industry. The industry is largely at fault with their abuse of their fans. They have been abusive and negligent to the fan base. And then how do I look when you abandon me? Do you actually expect me to bring my children into your establishments and buy your books? When it was the dollars of my generation or previous generations that built you to whatever you were? It doesn't work that way. You've lost more readers than you're able to regenerate. You ain't Wolverine. You just keep losing limbs and they ain't growing back. Is that just me?
No.
Readers are falling. Readership is falling. Check out Mr. Millar's interview with the retailers. It is gold. It is absolute gold. And you hear them say, once you lose a reader, it's so hard to get them back. Yep. When you lose them for any reason. I stopped collecting 10 years ago. Man. 10, 15 years ago? 15 years ago?
Well, we read at the comic store every week.
Every week. I had an allowance.
Every week. And I'm red and blue bags.
Red and blue bags. Amazing Fantasy. I had a subscription where I had them pulling. Yep. And he would always be right behind me. Dad, what books you got? As soon as I put them down, he's trying to go through them. Right?
Before I can read, I was just looking at the pictures. Wow. Yeah.
And I stopped. You see what I'm saying? Yeah. I stopped. Yeah. Number one, you priced me out. You priced me out because I work hard for my money. And I come from an era. Now, granted, I don't go back as far as some of these other guys where books were, 20 cents. But I remember 80 cent books. I was 15, 16 on the spinner rack. I got this the other day because it was on the spinner rack. Because it was on the back issues. This is one of the books I bought. I was 14 when this came out. 14. I remember it on the spinner rack at White Hen Pantry. And I'm like, who is this artist? And this was Mark Silvestri. And I copied the pages from this like crazy, right? But this at the time was $1.50. So I remember when I could walk in with 20, 30 bucks and walk out with 20, 25 bucks.
Yeah.
Respectively. Now I walk in with 20 bucks if I'm buying a floppy. If I'm trying to buy one of these, I walk in with 20 bucks. Good luck if I get 4.
Yeah.
And you can't afford to be curious anymore. Like all my books that are back there that may have to go out now because of damage. I estimated that maybe a third or more of those books were curiosity, exploratory. New titles, new artists that I didn't know, but I could afford to lose $1.50.
Yeah.
Now you can't afford to experiment anymore. People are going to what they know. And once you lose them with that, they're not coming back. I'm not experimenting at $4 or $5 a pop on the title. Not doing it. Now I buy specifically according to writer and artist.
Yeah.
And they're not even producing regularly anymore, which is another one of Millar's points and the industry's points, is that they can't keep creative teams because superstar creative teams, and mind you, my tastes are expensive, I'm sure, and the artists and the writers that I follow. I'm sure they're top tier guys, all of them, because they don't produce regularly. Why? Because they don't want to pay them.
Yeah.
They're expensive. But these are the guys that move books. So like whenever a top artist, Jay will tell, I'm getting, oh, he did a book. Cool. Let me go get it. And I'll just go get that.
Yep.
As opposed to, oh, I'm curious about this. Oh, I'm curious about that. Probably half the books were just curiosity that I didn't end up collecting. Because I could afford to lose $1 here and there.
Coming to battle, like, what is this?
Come on, man.
I read that.
They did it.
Publishers I ain't never heard of.
They did it. And so anyway, he calls my man a falling star, which is absolutely absurd. Absolutely asinine. It was absolutely asinine. And so, I'm not a big fan of Twitter wars and verbal wars. I'm like, if you got something to say to me, say it to me, man. Ain't a whole lot of people about that life no more. But again, made in the 70s, reared in the 80s, shaped by the 90s. So that's who we were. And so anyway, Waid goes on to say, I don't want to read all of this because it's long, but that he would rather, I'm trying to see if I can find it. He would rather see the comic industry burn to the ground. Here he goes right here. I think a lot of us would rather see the industry burn down than get together with the alt-right. I know I would. Sorry. I can call bloop on anyone who tries to highlight. So the alt-right as opposed to, now number one, alt-right, that's inflammatory. Right? Again, verbiage. He's a writer. That's excessive. Because anybody who disagrees is automatically cast to the extreme opposite.
Yeah. Always.
Why? Because you're virtue signaling, trying to rally your troops around you, right? And so, are we talking alt-right or the far left? Yeah. People are more nuanced than that. People are way more complex than that. Yeah. Based on our religious beliefs, Jordan, and how we operate, we would be considered conservatives. Mm-hmm. Which they would cast us to the far right. Which is crazy. And those who know me know that I'm not that.
Yeah. I'm a partisan from that, that's for sure.
Yeah, I'm not that. I have some conservative values.
Yeah.
Right? But I'm not that. But it's easier to put us in this box so that you can rally your troops. But I ain't trying to rally troops, to be quite honest. No. Right? I'm trying to get rational thinking people that can look at the industry. You're trying to urinate. I don't know what monetization looks like, but you're trying to urinate on us and tell us that it's golden rain, that it's raining gold. Industry. That's not. Every book that's doing anything now of any merit is an indie.
Yep.
Think about it. Marvel. The Boys. Invincible. Yep. You see, you know what I mean? Invincible sales have spiked since the animated show. Boy sales skyrocketed once The Boys came to Amazon Prime.
Yeah. Indie products.
You see, you know, when Marvel was making good movies, folks were buying the omnibuses of Avengers and Iron Man, and you know what I mean? When in phase 1 and phase 2, before they went belly up. Give us good stuff. But he would rather see the industry burn down. With the industry, he's not talking about comics. He's about Marvel and DC. But here's my. I want your input on this, son. Is that a bad idea, considering the state of things?
And for it to start from scratch?
Yep.
I don't think so. I don't think that's a bad thing. You know, I'm a burning type of person, though. So
you're scorched earth.
Yeah, I scorched earth anyway. When there was stuff started looking too crooked, I'm all for making people, for people to be humbled, and to start again from the basics, from the beginning. I'm all for that. And honestly, all of this comes down to, you know, all these ideas, and obviously representation, especially as a young black man, is important. A young black man with half Asian children that have black, it's representation is very important for me, for my son to see Miles Morales, who was black and Puerto Rican, to see have somebody to look up to that's just different. You know, that is important to me. But the essence of comic books, the essence of fantasy within itself, is which is the genre that comic books falls under, is to be an escape from the real world
that transcends color and race and sexuality,
color, race, and gender, all of that stuff. That is what comic books, for they were meant to be an escape. That's what they were for me. That's what they were for my dad. Where we grew up and the things that we came from, the things that we seen. Comic books is our escape. When we go to the movies and we go watch superhero, when we sit down, we watch an Invincible, it's an escape from the real world stuff. I own a business. He owns a business. That is our escape. When we talk about this stuff, when we talk about comics and storybooks and Thor, that's our escape. And when you are trying to put your life stuff into the books, it takes away our escape. And I think that's the biggest issue that people are having. You're taking away our escape and you're putting us back into the real world. And that's what I think is the biggest issue, and what people are not simplifying it down to.
Right.
They're making it more complicated than what it is. They're making it leftist and rightist. No, you're taking away our escape.
Right.
And I just believe that's what it comes down to at the end of the day.
That is so well said. Don't rob me of my escapism. The world is what it is. Again, when I was growing up, I didn't know enough to pay attention to if a character was black or white. It didn't matter to me. Yeah. Okay? The essence of effective writing, and mind you, keep in mind, I own a comic art specific school where storytelling is at the center of it. We have people of all races and sexual preferences in our school. And even if their belief system is not in alignment with mine, I serve them. I serve them. Teach them how to tell their story, how they want to tell it in the most compelling way that will hopefully reach their target audience.
Right.
Okay? But I don't have to see, as powerful as an impact as it was with Milestone, prior to that, I didn't have to see a character that looked like me. Because I found something in our humanity that connected us.
Yep.
If there is a white character or an Asian character and he has a family and he had, you know, he grew up in a rough part of town, there's something for me to latch on to there.
Yep.
Now I project myself onto that character. Now your job is to just take me on a journey with him or her.
Yep. Right?
Take me on a journey that now that I've latched on to these very human things that connect us, I can rock with it. But what many of these new creators are doing, number one, they don't have enough life experience to have an interesting story in and of themselves. Let's just be quite clear on that. Many of these people came from their parents' basement the majority of their lives, or live very privileged, isolated, insular lives, and trying to tell expansive stories. You know, a lot of the writers from the other eras, they actually lived some things, which made their stories very compelling. You understand? So we have creatives attempting to pull from a well that is largely empty. To be clear, not going to bore you with my life, but I lived a lot in these 51 years. where my students are like, Doc Solo, you got to make stories about this stuff. And it's not that it's about me. Well, like, first, let me find something that connects all of us.
Right.
You don't have to grow up like I did. I don't have to grow up, but there's certain things that connect us as people making this journey through life. Whether you're gay, straight, black, white, Asian, whatever the case may be, male, female, whatever the case may be, there are things that connect us. And that is the essence of storytelling, of effective storytelling. Be human, not agenda. Because if you give me your agenda minus a story, I take none of it. If you give me your agenda wrapped in an exceptional story, I have to take all of it.
Yep, give me something to think about.
I have to take all of it. If you package it in a story is king.
Yeah.
So keep your agenda if you're not going to give me a good story. I'll never get past the agenda. It'll never happen. But many of them don't have those chops. They don't have enough. Because agenda's easy in this social media environment. Because you can find a group of people that agree with you.
Yeah.
And validate you. Even if that validation is false and premature. So that's all I got, y'all. That's all I got. You got anything else, son?
Nope. Everybody can find their own tribe. Everybody can find their own little group now. That's the power of social media. So you yell loud enough, somebody that thinks the same as you, you'll find them. Even if it's a small group of people, but you'll find them.
Even if it makes no sense. It's enough crazy in the world. It's enough crazy in the world. Well, crazy will agree with crazy.
Crazy will agree with crazy.
And that's the truth.
We connect to each other now. So I got nothing.
All right. Well, I'm Doc Solar from Ka-Pow, the Comic Art Academy. Ka-Pow is the sponsor of Generation Geek. Check us out at Ka-Pow School. We are the real art school for real people with real lives, taught by real professional artists. And check out my son Jay, Mr. Melee TV. He be streaming and he be twitching, playing all the games, doing the thing. A globally ranked Mortal Kombat player, and one of the representatives of what is that? Who you been repping that the video game? Blood Hunt.
Oh, Blood Hunt, part of
yeah. They have sponsored him and all this. The man does the things on the video game tip. And so check us out here at Generation. Like, follow, subscribe, do all the things, and we'll be coming at you regularly. This is going to be a regular thing with comic book news, animation. I just watched Yu Yu Hakusho, the live action.
We got a lot of content coming.
We got a lot of stuff to talk about. A lot of stuff to talk about. And sometimes if we can find the time, I'll come in here and I may do some drawing for you all. So you guys, if you don't check me out at Ka-Pow School here on YouTube and on social media, I might put some stuff in the background here so you guys can see how the old man does his thing. I'm getting better. I'm learning. I got a school, but I'm still learning. I'm learning some things. Always a student. And so God bless you guys. Listen, we got to get this stuff together. This industry has been a lot to a lot of people.
For sure.
A lot of people. It's opened so many doors. I'm doing some interviews at Ka-Pow School's YouTube with artists that are not even in comics anymore, but comics opened the door.
Yep.
Okay, it was the gateway to phenomenal careers and journeys, and I would hate to see this thing go belly up. And Mr. Majors, Brother Majors, I'm praying for you, man. Seriously.
Yeah, bro.
Seriously, man. I wouldn't wish you made some mistakes. Won't say you didn't. You screwed the pooch on a few things. In the way that you handled it. Your temper got the best of you. But how you have been railroaded over misdemeanors, stacked misdemeanors.
It ain't right,
I've seen too much in law enforcement. That's why it burns me. I've seen too much. And so we're going to be praying for you, man. And if anybody of any substance watches this, redemption's the most powerful story.
Absolutely.
Don't toss the baby out with the bathwater. He's still got a lot of value to give to the entertainment community, I believe. Just, keep your head up, bro. All right. So we out you here. Roll the credits. Hey. All right. So, yeah, that is currently happening. This has got the entire comic book industry abuzz. And I just want to add a little footnote to it. And let's kind of wrap this up in a nice, clean bow. I don't really know what is meant by, to put things in perfect context. He did say he'd rather see it burn down than blah, 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 alt-right. And I don't know what the definition of alt-right is. Let's be clear. A lot of people say things just for, clicks and giggles. Call it clicks and giggles. And they use the most verbose, inflammatory language possible in hopes that it will go viral. And in this case, it has. But definitions matter to me. It matters to your boy personally. I'll be completely honest. Definitions mean a whole lot to me. And so when you say alt-right, I don't know how far right you have to be to qualify as that. In all fairness, I don't know if Mr. Millar identifies or even associates. Me personally, I know by many I'm considered right because I am a born-again, card-carrying, white-collar-wearing clergy member of the Christian faith. And my religious beliefs and my faith values can easily classify me as significant right at the very least. But people are more nuanced than that. I caution as we grow this channel. And if you see me on any of my other channels at Ka-Pow School, where I'm teaching people how to draw and trying to help grow the comic craft. If you see me on my Honor Studios Entertainment, where I actually am working on my own properties, as well as sharing my faith and my belief system and where I stand on issues that are important to me as a black man and as a Christian. One of the things I caution people on when dealing with me personally, and I deal with people in a very similar fashion, is don't oversimplify me. I would rather you consider me Switzerland as we move forward and as this channel grows. Now, what do I mean by that? I don't mean Switzerland in the sense of I ride the fence or I'm in the middle. That's not true either. What I mean by that is don't be so quick to pull me to your side because you may have another inclination to push me aside the moment I disagree with you. I'm more about right. I'm more about morals and what is just and what is fair. I'm not about extreme classifications, right, left, all that stuff, because I know people are much more complex than that, right? It makes it easier to throw us all in a box whenever we disagree. And so whether you're on the left or if you're on the right, handle me as Doc Solo, because there are some things that I may agree with at any given time on particular issues, never vacillating back and forth. That's something that you may do, okay? But never really vacillating back and forth. But I believe this as it pertains to this subject and this issue, but I stand here on this subject and this issue. And I think we would do each other a greater service if we allowed mercy and grace for the complexities that is inherent in humanity, okay? And so from the whole Comicsgate thing, when that was a thing, I didn't even know that was a thing, right? People quickly drew lines. Now with Glenn O'Leary, let me tell you something. What bothers me as someone that really does not have a dog in the fight of the comic book industry, but I'm very well aware of as an entrepreneur, as a businessman, and as a fan of the genre, as a lifelong fan of the genre, and as someone that has their own studio with properties that are being released into the world. No, I'm not Marvel. No, I'm not DC. I'm not opposed to working with either should the opportunity present itself. The right opportunity. And I'm going to be doing a video moving forward here on Generation Geek on how I used Marvel to build my business, right? How I leveraged Marvel to grow my business with Ka-Pow and not have to fully get in bed with the demands of that. And here's the thing. I have friends that work at Marvel and at DC. Okay, these are lifelong friends. They're gracious enough to let me interview. And interview them. And so I'm not on the far extreme, like burn the industry down, screw the industry because they're screwing the fans. Because what I realize as a father, as a grandfather, as someone who has had the weight of provision and protection on their shoulders, as a fan of the medium, as an entrepreneur, let me put all the facets into play. Okay, from all of these vantage points, I make these comments. I don't want to see the industry burn down. It may need to be razed to the ground and rebuilt. I don't know. But historically, the comic book industry has been a badly structured entity. All right, that has largely been dependent upon larger media outlets. During its inception, it was newspapers, where there were media moguls like William Randolph Hearst, right? Where newspapers and radio ruled the world. Now it's Time Warner and Disney, okay? The comics industry has never been, in the true sense, a real industry, self-sufficient, self-sustaining. It stood on their shoulders. But guess what? There's something else standing on its shoulders. And that is the retailers and even independents. Even independents. We may not like that, but the mainstream industry is the rule by which everything else is measured. And all of those things were propped up on its success. If you watch Mark Millar's Millar Time episode where he has the retailers on there, they even allude to this. Should the mainstream go belly up? The other smaller press publishers, really good luck with that. Good luck with that. Good, bad, or indifferent, however you feel about it. Good, bad, or indifferent. It's reality. Okay? I largely don't read a lot of Marvel, but some of my favorite artists, writers, and some of my friends are at Marvel and DC. They chose that path. I will share with you in a separate video why I chose differently at the age of 25 when I got my pass into the industry. Why I chose otherwise. There's a story there. Okay, but it was an informed decision. Okay, it was an informed decision that fit me and my family at that time. But I don't knock it. I'm not going to crucify it. Again, you're going to see I'm a baby bathwater cat. Every statement I make, and usually my son, because he is my son, they are often measured and thought out. We're not trying to grow an audience by creating more division. If anything, we want to be voices of reason and impartiality. And when I am biased, and when he's biased, we will tell you that we are biased. We will tell you that we are biased. Most of the books that I read nowadays are independents. But some of my favorite artists work on independence as well. Mark Millar is one of my favorite writers, but also, so historically, I don't know what he's done of late, but has been Mark Waid. He's been one of my favorite writers for the longest time. I loved, like I said, Kingdom Come, Irredeemable, amazing story, Irredeemable, brilliant on the Superman trope. Tower of Babel, which I would hazard to say changed the landscape, but also like Millar and what he's doing with Millar World. I loved Jupiter's Legacy. There's not much Millar does that I don't love. All right, Nemesis, Wanted. The movie was crap, but he did his thing on the graphic novel. And Ambassadors. Okay, be cautious when you take too hard a lines, and you end up running the risk of being hypocritical or vacillating. You can like both. Okay, so I don't agree with burning it all down necessarily, unless that's what it takes to rebuild it into something better. Okay, and if that positions all those who have lifestyles hinged, attached, have their carts firmly hitched to that train, that they don't pay too hefty of a price with what's happening in comics. Okay, because people are earning their livings and supporting families. It's been good to my family. It's allowed me to bond with my children and my grandchildren in ways that, man, I don't know. Now looking back, not too many things out aside from sports. Comics has been the thing. Now my grandchildren are doing it. All right. So again, choose, don't choose me. Again, I'm more like Switzerland. I make firm stands on things I firmly believe in. And that's it. That's it. If I agree with you, I will tell you I agree with you, but I will not agree with you for the sake of association. right? I'm always trying to find out, what is the vice and the virtue in this position? Because every position has a dark and a light side. So choose wisely. With that being said, I am Doc Solo. This episode has been brought to you by Ka-Pow, the Comic Art Academy, the real art school for real lives taught by real pros. Check us out at kapowschool.com for more information on enrollment. And we are launching Ka-Pow the Prep Academy. And check me out on Ka-Pow Kid Zone, where I draw with my granddaughters, nieces, and nephews, and occasionally some kids whose parents have given consent to draw live with me as we draw the cool stuff and teach young ones the art of the craft at an early age. We are trying to grow this industry. Okay, and check out my son at Mr. Melee TV, where he plays all the hottest game titles. The boys battle Mortal Kombat. I think globally ranked at this point. But check us out everywhere and like, subscribe, follow, do all the things so you know when we're going live, when we're dropping new content. Tell us what you'd like us to talk about. If it's geek culture, it is here. And remember, if you like all things geek and nerdy, don't fear. Don't fear. You're not a fanatic. It's genetic. Doc Solo out.